Paperback Rocker, episode 74. Hey, this is Matt Severson, the Paperback Rocker, and I'm broadcasting from my 6x9 foot cinder block shack in the desert of northern Mexico, southern Texas. Welcome and thanks for checking out my show.
Broadcasting from the dark side of the moon, it's the Paperback Rocker.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your old buddy Matt, the Paperback Rocker. I'm back again with my little podcast where I read from my novels currently, or novel, which is called Blue Whiskey. I hope you've been enjoying it so far. Drop me a line sometime, paperbackrocker@live.com. Contribute to show expenses if you'd like. paperbackrocker@live.com on PayPal. Or just enjoy it for free. You can always get the books on Amazon. They're available Kindle, real cheap. Or you can contact me, paperbackrocker@live.com, and get yourself an autographed copy, which I will ship to you. I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it because it is sweltering hot, and I have to turn the air conditioner and all fans off when I do this. So it's going to be a quick 15-minute episode. Plus, I'm very pressed for time because I'm working on new Saturnlander music that will be done, hopefully, this coming weekend. And Stanton had just met the interesting, stereotypical, I guess, Hank, the country and western singer, looking for a band. And they're getting ready to hit the town. And let's see what page we are on. We are on the very, very bottom of page 108. The very last sentence. Okay, here we go. I'll drive around until we find a good saloon, I said. My thought, they're going to a honky-tonk. Okay. For Hank and Stanton. My thoughts drifted back to Reuben and the possum, what seemed a millennium ago. I made a mental note to call Reuben in the morning. 10 minutes later, I pulled into a little mom-and-pop tavern, primarily to stop Hank's incessant rambling. He was from Oklahoma. He couldn't ride a bull, but he could rope a calf. He could castrate a calf, but he didn't like calf fries, whatever those were. He'd been in a tornado. He liked the Sooners. On and on and on. We went inside, and the place had a bar, 2 pool tables, and a jukebox. Fine by me. Grab us a couple brews, I said, handing Hank $2. I'll be at the jukebox. There was a machine by the juke that changed dollars for dimes. I fed a $5 into it and shoveled out the handful of silver. I put all the coins into the machine. I looked at the selections and said, "What the hell?" I pulled the perfect playlist from my back pocket and punched buttons. When I had played all I could find, I pushed dozens of random combinations. I turned around and saw Hank standing by a pool table. We were the only people in the joint, so I figured we might as well play. Sorry, I'm hitting the stand. I walked over and he handed me my beer. There's 10 or 12 credits on the juke, Hank. Play some songs while I rack. Hank bounded across the room like an excited Dalmatian. I racked the balls very loosely, and he returned a short time later. I watched closely as he lined up his shot. He blasted the balls with the billiard equivalent of a broken bat blooper in baseball, also known as a Texas leaguer. It was all pop and no circumstance. Hank looked at his stick like it was defective. My shot, I said. I drained the solids in a minute, followed by the 8-ball. I had played my share of billiards on Bourbon Street. I looked over at Hank, and he looked like an oaky calf waiting to be castrated. Want to put some money on the next game, Hank? I don't know about you, he said. It's just a game. Practice up, then we'll play again. I put a dime in and racked up a tight clutch of balls for him. I sat on a nearby bar stool to watch. Hank busted up the balls more effectively this time and went into deep thought as he measured angles and solids and stripes methodically. I sat at the bar enjoying the songs from the jukebox. Reuben really had hit the nail on the proverbial head with that playlist. As Hank was lining up the last ball on the table, I saw his angle was off and said, "Hank!" No answer. Must be the jukebox, I thought. "Hank!" No response. As I said, the place was empty, so I screamed at the top of my voice, "Hank!" Still he took the shot at the wrong angle. He missed and looked at me and said, "Guess I had the angle wrong." I said, "What's your real name, Okie?" "Chester," he said, shamefaced. "What tipped you off?" "Chester, if you aren't careful, you're going to walk right by your fans when they're begging for your autograph." Chester/Hank was confused and started to say something, but was distracted by two men who entered the bar at that moment. I turned to look at them. By their appearance, they had experienced a lot more of the world than me and Chester. They defined unkempt. One had an unruly brown mane of full-bodied hair. He wore a pearl-snap, long-sleeved Western shirt with a brown leather vest over it. The other guy had black hair combed into a frayed pomade pompadour. Waxy shards of his bangs made frequent jailbreaks, causing him to slick them back with his hand. He had a ruffled satin shirt on that was as yellow as the sun. "That'll Be the Day" was playing on the jukebox, song 5 of Reuben's list. I hadn't played the set in order since I couldn't find a lot of the songs. "Hey, they're playing my song," said the one with the shaggy brown hair. He sort of reminded me of a wolf man. Bet one of mine is fixing to play next," said the one with the unruly black bangs. They looked on the verge of losing control. They looked like they were always on the verge of losing control. "Who played my song? I'm going to buy him a drink," said the brown-haired man, scanning the bar and seeing only me and Hank. "I did," I said in a strong voice. "But don't try to tell me you're Buddy Holly, may he rest in peace." "May he rest in peace," agreed the man, and I could tell he meant it. "I'm Waylon Jennings. I was in Buddy Holly's band on his last tour. I played bass. I gave up my seat on that plane he went down on." I walked over to the man and extended my hand. "My name's Stanton Wheelhouse." "Nice to meet you, Stanton Wheelhouse. This is Johnny Cash. You may have heard of him." "I'm sorry I haven't, but don't take it personal. No doubt you haven't heard of me either." I reached out to shake Johnny Cash's hand. "I'm Johnny Cash," said the black-haired man as he shook my hand. "I caught that," I said with a smile. "He says that out of habit," said Waylon. "That's how he starts every show." "Well, that's smart," I said. "Make sure the audience knows who they're watching." "I hope I haven't offended you, Mr. Cash. I've led a sheltered life as far as country music goes." "Don't be ridiculous. I told Waylon I wanted to go somewhere where we could be ourselves." "Stanton," said Waylon, "buy the first round, and I promise I'll get the next one. Here." He handed me 3 black beauties. I flashed back to my prior experience with the pills, but popped them in my mouth and swallowed. When in Rome. "I believe you were going to buy me a drink," Waylon reminded. "Yes," I said. "I forgot." My mind was already racing, and I shuddered to think how fast it would be going in 15 minutes. Hank hadn't budged. He knew who both of these guys were, and he was not nearly as willing to audition for them as he had been for me back at the gas pump. "Who's the statue?" asked Johnny, motioning with his hand, which he then ran through his unruly pompadour. "That's Chester," I said. "He goes by the stage name Hank." Waylon and Johnny looked at each other. Waylon rolled his eyes, and Johnny shook his head slightly. "Stanton, I changed my mind," said Waylon. "If you'll get around to buying that first round, I'll buy all the rest. How about that?" It's a deal, I said, turning toward the bar. Bartender, 4 beers, please. I looked at Chester and said, Rack 'em up, Hank. Chester looked heavily sedated, like he had caught a bad case of walking coma. I rushed over to him and stomped on his foot. Wake your ass up, Hank, I said in his ear. This is your big chance. Hankster looked at me, dazed. Watch this, guys. No, that was the wrong voice. Watch this, guys. I called to Waylon and Johnny, who were walking our way with the beers. Hank, do you know how a turkey looks over a log? I said in an exaggerated manner, like I was in an Abbott and Costello routine. From his stupor, he managed, Was it? I grabbed a pinch of his hair just above the nape of his neck and jerked it upward with all my might. Ah! Screamed Hankster, now on tiptoes with his gaze pointed at the floor. He looked 7 feet tall. This is how a turkey looks over a log, I said. Waylon and Johnny roared. Now that's a good one, said Johnny. Lucky Sergeant York's not around, said Waylon. That hurt, said Hankster, rubbing the back of his neck. I had to do something to wake your ass up, I said to him with my back to Johnny and Waylon so they couldn't hear. Thanks, he said. I guess. Rack 'em up before they think we're a couple numbnuts, I said. In our 4th game, Waylon and I were pitted against Johnny and Hank. We were now ordering pitchers of beer, and they were going down fast in our amphetamine crank. Waylon, there's no way we can beat these guys with that secret weapon of theirs, I said. What secret weapon is that? Asked Johnny. He had been lining up a shot, but stood up straight now and looked at me with suspicious eyes. That shirt of yours, I said. I was now at ease with them. I can't concentrate. Can you, Waylon? It ain't fair now that you mention it, Waylon answered. He closed his eyes tight and opened them again. I can still see it when I shut my eyes. All this whole night was larger than life. Every comment was a scream. Every laugh was a roar. Every crack of cue ball against solid or stripe sounded like a rifle shot. This was my first brush with celebrity, and I liked it. The next day, Hank and I would suffer debilitating hangovers, but Johnny and Waylon would be writing their next hits while they wrestled life into submission. My wife gave me this shirt, said Johnny through clenched teeth. I thought I had overstepped my familiarity. I hate it. I'll be right back, I said. I ran out of the bar to my van parked in front and dug through my clothes until I found something better suited for Mr. Johnny Cash. I hustled back to the pool table. This one will be easier on our eyes, I said as I handed my shirt to him. He stripped to the waist and put his arms into the sleeves of my pearl snap, then buttoned it up. That's a black beauty, said Waylon with a big smile. Speaking of, he reached into his vest pocket and distributed more pills among us. Johnny tucked the black shirt into his tight black slacks and blew his nose on the yellow shirt and threw it onto a mounted deer head on the wall. It looks better on him, I said. Johnny gave me a bitter look, then smiled and said, Stanton Wheelhouse, you're all right. He bent over and sunk his next shot without aiming. The man in black sinks another one, I said. Johnny was leaning over the table for his next shot, but he stopped and looked up. Mind if I use that? It's yours, I said. You are the man in black, after all. Sounds a hell of a lot better than the feller in yeller, Waylon slurred. We all laughed except Hankster. He had taken the form of a mannequin, devoid of emotion. Between the black beauties and the proximity to celebrity, his simple mind was overwhelmed. At about 2 a.m., Johnny said, Hank, will you watch our pool cues while we get a fresh of breath air? That's what he said, no typo. Hank nodded mechanically. Come on, Stanton, said Waylon, and we left the bar. Where's your car? Our licenses are suspended. I led them to my Chevy, and we piled in. Waylon sat in the front, and Johnny laid down in the back. Where are we going? I asked. Give us a ride over to our friend's place, said Waylon. It's a motel room, actually. Not Christofferson, came Johnny's voice from the back. Just go where I say, Waylon said to me confidentially. You ever tried cocaine, Stanton? Not really. Johnny bayed like a bloodhound on the trail of an escaped prisoner. We got to the motel and I parked. Johnny had passed out, so Waylon and I helped him out of the back and up to room 222. I can hold Johnny, Waylon said at the top of the stairs. Knock on the door, Stanton. I did so, and seconds later I was looking up the barrel of a handgun. It was a revolver, and I could see the business end of a bullet in each chamber. Not again, said Waylon. Stanton, it's best you be on your way. He reached his hand toward me from under Johnny's armpit. Good luck, son. I'll see you guys again, I said as I shook his hand. Tell Johnny I had a blast. I heard the gun cock next to my head. Bye-bye, Nashville, I rebel yelled as I quick-stepped down the stairs, tripping and falling in a pile at the bottom. I looked up at the now-closed door I had knocked on a moment before, and it looked as harmless as those to the left and right of it. There was no sound but the crickets. That reminded me of Buddy Holly and the start of the evening, and I smiled. I drove back to the bar to see if Hank was okay. I found him slumped over the bar like the reincarnation of the son of Faulkner. We're all paid up, right? I asked the bartender. Not quite. You guys ran up a $230 tab. But don't worry about it. You sure? I don't know why I said that. I didn't have the money to pay. I'm sure. Johnny or Waylon will pay it eventually. They always do. Thanks, I said. Good luck in New York, Stanton. He had been eavesdropping. Thanks. All right, that's the end of chapter 10, page 115, and that's the end of this episode. And I hope you enjoyed that one. I'll be coming back with another one this weekend. Thanks for being with me. As always, drop me a line, somebody, please. Have a good one, my friends. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
The Paperback Rocker has signed off.